Mic's on? Thanks, Felix. Okay. Okay, good morning, here we go. It's an honor to be the first speaker, and I can promise you that all of the speakers after me are even more amazing. Okay, so here we go. So what does it mean to be inspired? To think and to question. To be change and to make change. To be avant-garde. It would seem that the best way to inspire people is to make sure all of their needs are met. We've often heard of the starving artist struggling to create great art in the face of poverty, hunger, and despair. This model teaches us that the best way to create something amazing is to have all of our basic needs met first. In fact, in educational theory, we believe in this so much that all of us incorporate this idea into our pedagogy. How many teachers do I have in the audience today? You're all already blown away, I can see. So all of you, as your excellent teachers will know, this model. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's a pillar of educational theory. The belief is that in order for students to think at higher levels, to really be critically thinking, they need to have their most basic needs met first. So looking at the pyramid, you can see obviously physiological. They can't be tired or hungry. They need to feel safe. They need to feel like they belong. And they need to feel that their ideas are respected. This is such an important theory, and it's one that I, as an educator, believe in. I use it in my classroom, and I think that it is true. People do need to have their basic needs met. Any of you who have a small child or a younger sibling know the joy of trying to get them to do something when they haven't had their basic needs met. This is my daughter, doing her math homework. And I hope I'm not the only parent who's had a moment like this. Now, although Scarlett is amazing, she's in the audience, so I have to say that. But it's true. She was in no mood to do her math homework because she was tired. And many of you know how this feels. Although we can't throw ourselves on the floor and protest, when we're not comfortable, when we haven't had our basic needs met, we struggle. Ask anyone this morning before I got my coffee. It was a struggle. Putting comfort first is a popular model because we like the idea of it. We like being comfortable. As an American, I can tell you that we love comfort. We had people go to the White House to meet the president in flip-flops. I don't think it gets more comfortable from that. But also, this has become a real model. If we look at cool new places to work, like Facebook or Google, you'll see that putting employees' comfort first is something that places aspire to. All of these cool working places are built around the idea that employees who are comfortable, who are having their basic needs met, perform at higher levels and create better work. Yeah? So my question though is, how accurate is this model? How important is comfort? Is it truly the critical pillar that we assume it to be? Do we really achieve our best when we're in a beanbag, playing foosball, feeling love? Yeah? Speaking of love, how many of you are fans of reality television? Yeah? A place that's pretty much devoid of love. Well, I am a big fan of reality TV, but I watch high-quality reality TV, if there is such a thing. And I've been watching Project Runway for almost 14 years. So since I was 5. Anybody else watch Project Runway? It's just me. I know Andrew watches it. Project Runway is a show that takes designers from around the States and puts them together and gives them different design competitions. The idea is the designers compete against each other for the chance to win the opportunity to showcase their collection at New York Fashion Week. This is huge. I love this show because it's competitive, it has fashion in it, which obviously I'm the queen of, and you really get to see designers create amazing things. under very tricky circumstances. Now, of all the challenges in a 15-episode series, my favorite challenge is the Avant-Garde challenge. Now, in this challenge, the contestants are tasked with creating a design that's avant-garde. Now, what does this mean? Avant-garde is something that's new, something unusual and experimental. Now, it's especially in the arts, but this is obviously something we can apply to any realm of our life. Now, one of the really important things to consider, though, is for something to be avant-garde, it doesn't necessarily need to be functional or even wearable. It just has to be something unusual and experimental, something that makes us think. Here are some of the designs from that episode, and they're amazing. You can see that they have different types of inspiration. Now, I love this episode because I think the designs are so cool. But one of the things I've also learned, now that you know I'm a Project Runway connoisseur, is that often the designer who wins the Avant-Garde challenge ends up winning the season as a whole. Now, what this tells us is that there is real value in avant-garde. There is real value in pushing the envelope and making people think. And people who have power and decision-making capabilities are interested in ideas that are unusual and experimental. And it's something that we should consider. One of my favorite designers is Alexander Mcqueen, and he really exemplifies this idea of avant-garde. And here are some examples of his work. The idea being that they're unusual, experimental, they can make you feel uncomfortable, but they're also beautiful and inspirational, and they make us think. So in order to get into this space of the avant-garde, my question to you is, how do we get into a space where we feel challenged? How many of you are surrounded by people who think like you think, who have the same opinions and ideas as you? Although you might think that you're a Renaissance individual who's willing to interact with all different types of people, research actually shows the opposite. Kellogg University shows us that if we interact with people who believe what we believe, our ability to be innovative, to create things that are new and unusual, falls by 15%. Even more powerful is knowing that if we interact with people who have different ideas than us, the quality of our decision-making increases by nearly 50%. This is huge. There is real value in exposing ourselves to the avant-garde, to ideas that make us uncomfortable. Now, one area of our life where we have to be very careful of this is on the social media platforms that we use. How many of you use some type of social media? I assume that's everyone. Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, these are a critical part of our life. But one thing you may not realize is that those of us who participate in them often are stuck in what is known as the Facebook echo chamber, which is pretty self-explanatory. But just to give you some data on it, research shows that on Facebook, only 23% of our friends in our feed have an opposing political ideology. And I'm guessing that we've probably hidden their feed. So we may not even be reading it. Even more interesting is that of the news we choose to read or click on from our feed, only 25% of it actually crosses our own beliefs and our own ideological lines, meaning that the information and news that we seek out or expose ourselves to, 75% of the time, it already reaffirms what we believe. We're not putting ourselves out there and being exposed to ideas that we don't like. So what do you do about this? Well, obviously, one thing you can do in terms of Facebook is open yourself up to organizations and people who have different ideas than you. Follow individuals who think differently than you. Read news from organizations that cross ideological lines. Expose yourself to the possibility that you may read something that makes you uncomfortable, because it's in that space that you can truly create something avant-garde. Now, to give you a little analogy here, we're going to go to my caterpillar friends. I don't know how many of you are familiar with caterpillars, but one thing, well, I know everybody knows caterpillars, but I have a very interesting fact about them. When caterpillars metamorphosize into a butterfly, they actually liquefy. Inside the chrysalis, their bodies release an enzyme, which liquefies their bodies, and then they transform into a butterfly inside the chrysalis. So if you were actually to go in and cut the chrysalis at the right time, a caterpillar soup would come out. So I hope you see where I'm going with this analogy. Although I'm not advocating that you push yourself so hard that you liquefy, it is very important for this idea of change and to be in a place where we are thinking in new and exciting and innovative ways, that we really open ourselves up to being uncomfortable and to being open to change. Now, but, always a but, there is a tipping point here. If we are pushed too far outside of our comfort zone, or if we push people too far outside of their comfort zone, something called an affective filter can interfere with our ability to be open-minded and consider new ideas. Now, this is pulled from linguistic theory, but what this means is that if we're in a space where we feel like we've been pushed too far, where we feel stress or low self-esteem or anxiety, a mental block comes up which actually prevents us from participating in the ways that we know we can or the ways that we might want to. If any of you have studied a second language and tried to speak, you know what this is like, where you're trying to put your sentence together. You know you studied French for 5 years and you can definitely order that coffee, but you feel stressed and it doesn't come out. And so it's very, very important that although we do open ourselves up to new ideas, we don't do it in a way that creates so much stress and anxiety that we lose the ability to participate in this new space that we're creating. So how do we do this? There's so many ways we can open ourselves up to live in this avant-garde space. Now, all of us in here, we have the privilege of participating in talks like this. If you're live streaming this, you are in a place where you have access and privilege that many people do not. We have the ability to have enormous positive impact on the world. We can make the world better, more inclusive, and kinder with our great ideas. But we can only do that if we push ourselves to be open to new ideas that are outside of our comfort zone and truly in the space of avant-garde. Now, there are many ways to do this, and it's actually something that we can really enjoy. Go out, see art that challenges you, engage people who have ideas that are different than yours, and have conversations with them. Eat food you don't like. Read books that have a different perspective. Be okay with possibly feeling uncomfortable, because only in that space can we truly create something innovative and amazing. You need to be open to open your mind so much that butterflies fall out. So, thank you so much.